may I finish?
Those remarks
now,
out?
may I finish? I disagree with anyone attacking 9/11. I lived in New York at the time, took in people from 9. I disagree with anyone castigating that. But I also disagree when somebody said something against all white people and can't say what they said. Talking about what you said does not answer the charge you made. And I think that's the danger of getting away from the issues, because we just start making it up. And I think that is unfair to Obama or Clinton when we make statements that are, patently untrue.
Let me move on to something else.
I'm a little. I don't want to be confused on this issue, Steve. I want you to just take a moment and explain how Barack Obama has to be responsible for this pastor's comments, because when he said GD America, he was talking about the plight of African Americans in this country and how it
He
took.
was? He brought up Hiroshima and Nagasaki. How is that the plight of black America?
No, wait a minute.
He brought up the Palestinians.
I'm talking about the one comment.
About, Ed?
Well, Al's right. You do interrupt a lot.
You know what? Maybe that's why I'm so successful.
Keep talking, Steve. You'll bring us all together. Great unifier.
Getting pissed at me ain't going to do anything. What are you angry at me for?
Because you're following up on something.
No, I'm asking you. I am following. Okay, he was talking about the plight of African Americans in this country. I listened to the entire speech. Okay, I'm not condoning what he said was the right thing, but I do understand the context in which he was saying it. And he has a habit of talking to the black folk of America and how they have to rise above all the challenges. That was the context in which he said it. He didn't say, "God damn the Constitution of the United States."
No, he said, "Not God bless America, GD America."
Oh, so it's got to be anointed words. It can't be freedom of speech, right? No, I do want to hear the answer.
On the left, don't they? What he said was, in that part of what we're talking about with Reverend Wright, he brought up Hiroshima and Nagasaki. He brought up that we condone genocide against the Palestinians, against South Africans. And then he said, and when we're hit, we express outrage and we wonder why. In other words, he's trashing this nation. He's saying we have a history leading up to it, and we deserve it. How does that relate to black America?
No mistakes. We as a country have made no mistakes. Going into Iraq was the absolute right thing to do.
Just say you agree
with them. And there are people in this country, if you do your history checking, that there was a great debate within our society as to whether we should have nuked Japan or not.
Thank God we did.
I'm glad we did too.
George?
It was the right call. But there was a debate about whether it was the right thing to do or not.
You guys have all missed.
Go ahead.
Can we get back to the point of Obama for a second? Because the issue here was not so much what Wright said, because I think, well, with a few exceptions, the vast majority of us have found the things that he has said to be very offensive and objectionable. The problem here is that Barack Obama has sat in a pew for 20 years and has trotted him out as his inspiration, placed him on committees. This is the man he looks to for all sorts of spiritual guidance. If anyone else walked into a church and heard this sort of crap every single week for 20 years and then said, "I'm going to bring my daughters here, I want them to be baptized here," we would think they were nuts. If I walked into a synagogue every day or every week for 20 years and heard somebody trashing other people, other members of this country itself, I would make the decision to leave. Now Barack Obama wants the free pass and says, well, you know, I've been there every week for 20 years, I've heard all this nonsense, but I don't really believe it. And some of it I believe, but not all of it, and please give me a pass on this. And I'm sorry, he has to take some responsibility for making the decision to be there and to subject his daughters to it.
Stephanie?
Absolutely. Thank you, Steve. George, I think it's time to bring the hookers in to break the tension. Who needs some 7 diamond tricks? Anybody? This is, I mean, what's happened to freedom?
Well, since you brought it, let me ask you a question about that, because we were...
As a New Yorker, I'm offended by that.
Good. Protest me. I need the publicity.
So what's your theory, Stephanie? Let's go to Spitzer for a second. What's your theory? This is a guy who has been a crusader his whole life. You know, the easy way to ask is, what could he possibly be thinking? Obviously wasn't thinking, but what is going on?
Well, first of all, I understand he came on the Mayflower. Thank you. Good night, everybody. That's the Mayflower Hotel. Okay, I know. It is, you know, there's nothing like a good bipartisan hooker scandal. You know, I think you're right. It's always the hypocrisy that gets these guys, isn't it? Than necessarily, because you're right.
Well, here it was the wire transfers, I think, but I mean,
he wrote the law on some of these prostitution rings. So I think, you know, I think the thing that everybody always feels the worst for is the family. You know, when you have the press conference and we're going to spend time on, you know, repairing our. Yeah, you're going to spend time with your dick in a vice in the basement.
But every single time this happens, the wife.
We say that on C-SPAN. We can overanalyze this. The guy wanted to get laid by a hot young babe, and he's arrogant enough to think that being in a high position, he can get away with anything he wants, and that's
the talk radio
There's a minister on the panel. Can we watch our language, please?
The hot, from a talk radio standpoint, the hot subject, no pun intended, was this guy has been frequenting a lot of prostitutes in 10 years. What's his wife doing? What do you have to do to get thrown under the bus? What is she thinking? That was the hot story, at least on our show. People wanted to talk about.
Well, why don't you ask Hillary? She might be able to answer that question.
This is why we have the vetting process in this country, because someone like that could be in a position to have to make a judgment and end up being blackmailed.
Yeah, but the other thing, Ed, that's important about it is it forced so many of us to rethink math. Because if you divide $4,000 per hour by 60 minutes, it's just unfathomable.
I don't know what he did with the other 58 minutes. I don't know.
Well, there was towel service and a credit.
What do you get for $4,000 a night? That's what, the mind reels. That was the part that our listeners were stuck on, is the whole, he might want to do some stuff that's unsafe. Like, what is that called? Like, yeah, we're going to need the Great Dane and the Duracell battery pack and a trampoline. That's going to be a little extra. And bring your own helmet, Governor.
But it's sad, though. I mean, this is what we call, this passes for celebrity. This girl will be a celebrity.
Yes.
She's going to make millions.
Young girls will want to have their picture taken with her, just like they did Monica Lewinsky. And what is her claim to fame? She was with the governor of New York in a hotel room, and it's ridiculous.
Judith Regan wants to do a book with her. She's been there, done that,
George, can I ask you a question?
Sure. I don't know if I'll answer it, but you can ask it.
As one of the higher members
never
of the
paid more than $2,500.
Do you agree with me that Obama missed a great opportunity here? Because Hillary, when asked, couldn't say, I think he should resign. All she could say was, well, we'll see, man, because she had her own problems. Obama should have come out and said, if this is true, if the charges are true, I think that the governor should resign immediately, and I challenge the senator from New York to go along with me on that. But instead he said, I don't want to touch that. I don't want to answer that.
No, I disagree with you.
What's that?
I disagree with you.
Why? Why
well, for the reasons you guys were talking about before, one of the things that works for Obama is that he has a cool personality, and people tend to like that right now. They don't want things to be heated up too much in this presidential race. Had he done that, I think it would have been seen as a low blow, and I think it would have backfired pretty badly. Jim?
At least in David Patterson, the people of New York have a man whose head won't be turned by a pretty face.
Boo.
That's an anti-handicap statement. I think we have a good person. I mean, I think that, I've got problems with blaming women for their husbands. I mean, I think that in all due respect to Hillary, I don't think that you can blame her or Mrs. Spitzer for this. That's a little.
But she really had no choice for the girls, to come out.
I mean, that was a little much, but I think everybody was in shock. I mean, one of the reasons I think that both Mrs. Clinton and Obama didn't rush to judgment is no one could believe the story for 48 seconds. I mean, everybody was saying, tell me, another shoe's got to drop somewhere and explain this. And I think that a lot of people were shocked. And then when the calls started going around that he's going to resign, no one wanted to look like they were pushing him over the cliff when we knew he was going to
Everybody knew he was going to go. No one believed that story when it first broke, when they said he was on the wiretap of the FBI. No one believed it?
No, they believed it. They were shocked, though.
They were shocked at the details as they were unraveling. And no more than I think when you've had scandals here in Washington, it takes 2 days or 3 days for people to really believe the senator in the bathroom. I mean, people don't automatically think they've heard the whole story.
He still doesn't believe it.
Gordon.
I think that that was the thing. That was the bipartisan part. Is Democrat Republican? He's too stupid to be governor. No, should I sign the check, governor of New York? I don't think anyone will figure that out.
I just want to make the observation that we're all sitting here. We're all talk radio and everything, and what we're doing, we're not having a debate. We are all acting as the campaign managers of the candidates. And I just want to make the observation that Barack Obama has done very, very nicely without our assistance.